Latest on the deadly terror strike, coordinated terror attacks being reported from the French capital. Now, reports are telling us that all the attackers have been eliminated. The police in Paris have confirmed that the attackers at the Bataclan rock venue blew themselves up with suicide bells as the police closed in, killing 4. He said that the gunmen first sprayed cafes outside the venue with machine gun fire, then went inside the concert and killed more before the assault by security forces. The prefect Mitchell Cadet said one of the attackers was at the stadium, and nearly the same time the second group attacked within the city. Mosmi Singh is with us live from the national capital here in India. Mosmi, you're telling us that an alert has been sounded across India as well. The President of India also condemning these deadly terror attacks.
That's right, Simi. In fact, India is also vigilant because the ISIS threat is also looming large on India. Recent intelligence reports have indicated that the ISIS is looking for fresh targets, and the fresh targets are Indian youths, and they have been using the social media to radicalize many youths. Recent incidents have indicated that youths have been radicalized using Twitter and other forms of social media, it emerging as a new weapon. But clearly, with the Prime Minister condemning this attack, and then the President minutes ago tweeted that he was also shocked by the incident and India would stand with France. Clearly, the war against terror is turned out to be a global war where India is standing with other world leaders here. Even as reports pour in that all the attackers are dead, and the police has confirmed that one suspect who was also held is also dead. That means that the investigation would be extremely difficult, though initial reports and the ISIS has claimed responsibility for the entire attack. But with the gravity of the attack turning out to be mammoth, Simi, it is yet to be seen that how will France actually take this entire incident. Although the entire world has expressed solidarity with France, the French president has cancelled his tour to Turkey. He would not be going to Turkey. So clearly this entire incident, which is actually one of the biggest in recent times, has shook the entire world. And the main thing is this, that Simi, as we heard, that all the attackers are dead, but they did blow themselves up just right before the attack. So the idea was to cause maximum damage. They targeted public places, a stadium, a concert hall, and all the public restaurants that they could look at. The police has also confirmed that one team left for the stadium, which apparently the president was also present watching the soccer match with Germany. So clearly the target were high-profile targets and also public at large to cause maximum terror.
Mosmi, thanks so much for that update. We're going to keep coming back to you for more developments. We have Vivian Walt, journalist with Time Magazine, who's with us on the phone line. Vivian, could you take us through what's happening there on the ground? We're being told that that French police is saying that all militants have been neutralized now. Vivian, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Vivian, we're hearing that all militants have now been neutralized. That's the statement coming out from the French police.
Yes, it does appear that they have killed all the attackers that they know of, or otherwise that in the case of one attacker in the theatre, appears to have detonated an explosive belt.
All right, and earlier we'd heard that about 5 militants had been killed. Of course, 2 of them are believed to have been wearing suicide belts and they blew themselves up. We're not sure whether this was at the Bataclan or at that football stadium.
As far as we know, it was at the Bataclan Theatre. But the details tonight are still extremely confusing. there is basically a kind of flood of details coming out from several parts of the city and from several layers of government and officialdom in France. And I think we will have to wait until tomorrow before we really have a good count of the death toll. They say that more than 120 people have been killed, but it's still a very fluid situation.
The situation, of course, extremely fluid. And Vivian, what are the kind of scenes that you're witnessing across Paris? We're being told that close to 7,000 military personnel have now been deployed across the French capital.
Yes, and there were a number of military personnel already on the streets of Paris. I mean, one should not forget that actually Paris has been somewhat in a state of emergency all year since the Charlie Hebdo attacks.
Right.
The city has been on, the highest level of terror alert, and certainly, major train stations and major tourist sites and so on have seen, 24-hour military patrols. So it's very difficult for the French to wrap their heads around the fact that despite months and months of very high alert security, the government appears to fail to stop the worst terrorist attacks really in memory.
Right, and it's an important point that you're making that France had been in a state of alert since the Charlie Hebdo attacks. We're also being told that there was additional security considering that Paris was expected to host that global climate conference.
Well, exactly, and in fact, as of today, coincidentally or maybe not so coincidentally, there are thousands more armed personnel deployed across the country and especially around Paris, in readiness for the fact that in 2 weeks' time, the city is supposed to host something like 100 heads of state in a major kind of gathering of leaders to kick off the climate negotiations. This is a very, very big deal for this country, and especially for this government. It's the most important international meeting that they've hosted in many years.
Right, and Vivian, you told us that we'll probably be able to get details of the number of casualties only in about 12 hours. The situation is still very fluid on the ground. What are you seeing on the what are the scenes that you're witnessing on the streets? Earlier, we also heard some reports that the German football team has still not been evacuated from that football stadium.
Yes, that did happen earlier today at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was about 7 hours, I believe, 6 or 7 hours before the attacks began. But no one really thought anything of that. Everyone kind of brushed it off as a kind of passing incident. It was only much later tonight that people looked back and thought that perhaps it was a connection.
Right. So you're saying that it took security agencies also some time to realize that this was a series, that this was a coordinated strike across the French capital?
I'm not sure that that's clear yet. We will have to wait until the morning before we know more about whether or not there were early warning signs. From my standpoint, or, just living in Paris and having covered the events tonight, it appeared to have taken them off guard. And, it was basically an unseasonably warm evening. There were hundreds and hundreds of people out in the street. The cafes and restaurants are spilling over with people. And there were major things going on, a very big football match between Germany and France. So there were huge crowds and no sense whatsoever of impending danger.
Vivian, thanks so much for speaking to India today. Vivian Walt, a journalist for Time Magazine, getting us a report from the ground saying the situation is still extremely fluid. Security agencies still trying to ascertain the extent of damage and trying to figure out how many attacks actually took place and in what all locations. We're being told that about 5 locations were targeted by these militants. The police now issuing a statement saying that it's confident that most of them have been eliminated. Of course, the borders have been sealed off. Let's